We are here with my buddy CJ, and he's invited us into his reloading room. Say hi, CJ.
Hello.
And this is his reloading room. Now, he does have another little section downstairs just for cleaning and, kind of storing some stuff in the garage. But this is the meat and potatoes of his reloading room. So you can see kind of down here, and we'll go through all this here in a second. And then that's a hell of a buck you got on the wall there. So you do a lot of hunting with your grandpa, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So CJ's grandpa, for what it's worth, is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And for somebody who's never met most of the guys at our group, I think he's helped more than most people who know the guys in the group. A box of primers here, a can of powder there. Your grandpa's a hell of a guy. So yeah, he's really cool. So let's just get kind of into it. How long have you been shooting?
Well, I started as a kid shooting 22s, going over and shooting squirrels in Eastern Oregon, hunting, just kind of shooting with my dad. Actually, he got me into the shooting sports, and then shot with my grandpa, of course. But I started with 22s and just going over and kind of shooting with buddies and stuff like that. Never imagined I'd get into reloading or any form of bench rest whatsoever. It was 22s really is what got me into it, hunting.
And when you did hunting, you were always buying pre-made hunting
ammo? I was buying factory ammo, Hornady, Federal, whatever.
It's sure a lot easier, huh?
It takes a lot less time for sure. But you don't get the results you want, that's for sure.
I always say, man, it would be so much easier and cheaper to switch over to 22 long rifles sometimes because I think, man, those guys got it made. They just throw it in, tune it up, and they're done. But I don't know. You know me. I love the certain aspects.
Still takes a lot of time.
Oh,
we know the guys that do it, and it takes a lot of time.
And so how long have you been target shooting, whether it's PRS? I know you do PRS, you do F-class. How long have you been doing any kind of competitive shooting?
So I got into, I walked into the 600-yard range at Tri-County probably 2 years ago, I guess. I had a Tikka T3X TAC A1 6.5 Creedmoor, and I was just shooting long range. I wasn't really competing with it. I think I went to my first PRS match last year, probably 16, 18 months ago. Went with some hand loads I loaded at my grandpa's house with him, and that was kind of when competition started. And then I, walked out and talked to you, and you invited me to come out and shoot with all the guys and everything. And from there, it was just kind of this tumbling hill of getting into F class and wanting something that shoots better reloading gear. All of the above, and since then it's been, so the last 16, 18 months is when I've been.
Yeah, and I think, as a group, unilaterally we have decided that you are, without a doubt, the fastest 0 to hero in our group's history in terms of not shooting F-class to just kicking butt every time you come out. In fact, if we look up on the wall real quick, you'll see those 3 plaques up there. That's actually, second place for Summer League this year, second place Winter League, and third place last year's Summer League. And I mean, really just came on the scene and just dominated. And what do you kind of attribute that to? Obviously you have experience shooting, but kind of walk me through that, because that's quite the whirlwind to just come out. And I mean, you've come to big matches with us and really held your own against some really heavy hitters.
So it kind of starts with my grandpa. My grandpa reloads for hunting, and he has for many years. And he's always had a great reloading setup. So he actually does a lot of the stuff that we do for hunting rifles. So in terms of learning it, he's kind of taught me a lot of everything that I know. So the transition, once I started doing it myself, wasn't actually that difficult in terms of the reloading. Now, obviously, there's a lot to learn, and all the little tiny details and everything. I just kind of listen to people. I linger a lot around. There's certain people that when they talk, you kind of listen, see what they have to say, and you just kind of be this, sponge. You just kind of lay around and be a sponge and try and figure out how can I get better every time I go out and shoot, basically.
Very cool. And when it comes to competitive shooting, like I said, I know you do a lot of F-class. I know you do some PRS. What's your favorite discipline to shoot competitively in right now?
I think my favorite discipline to shoot is probably PRS.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's the most fun to me.
And why is that?
I don't know. It's a little more active, I guess. It's kind of more, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. It's just a little more interactive type of thing. You're shooting from positions. You're shooting steel plates. You're not really shooting for score. So it's hit or miss type of thing. I think the wind calling is a little more active too, because you don't have all the time to get set up and everything. It's you start from cold bore and you go.
Yeah.
I love F class. The reason I'm in F class is the availability of F class from where I live. That's the thing about PRS is in the Northwest, there's really not a whole lot.
It really is pretty
shooting.
limited up here. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just, I've shot in basically 2 PRS matches and then some NRL 22 stuff, which is just a mini version of PRS.
Yeah.
And if there was a lot more PRS, I probably would have never gotten into F class.
Yeah.
But to be able to come out and shoot every Tuesday.
How far do you have to travel for PRS right now?
The closest match that we can find, or I've found, is an hour and a half, and that's in Tillamook, and it's once a year. The other ones run between, I don't know, I think the lead farm's about 3.5, 4 hours up in southern Washington. And then other than that, you go to the big matches, and you're 8 to 16 hour drives.
Yeah, so it's definitely a haul for you. You definitely have a lot more F class around you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously because of where we are. There aren't quite the open availabilities for wide open like fields and stuff like the PRS requires. I know our club used to do PRS on a very limited basis, and it was still a stretch because you'd have to shut down half the range, just to do it. So I totally get it. That was my one and only horror story. All right, so let's take a look and just kind of walk me through. I see your bench, and I see something that I've seen before, which is if you guys look here, you'll see hinge marks. So this is obviously an exterior solid core door.
Yes.
And it ain't going nowhere. Drill through it. About the cheapest way to get it, right? A whole lot cheaper than a butcher block.
Yeah, it was laying around, actually sitting next to a dumpster at my parents' business that hadn't been used in many years and was painted. So I just sanded it down and put a little stain on it so it had all the paint chips and everything.
And then what'd you do? Just build the 4x4 frame under it?
My grandpa helped me build the frame. We just went to Home Depot, got everything, built the frame. It is solid. I leg bolted it to the wall with some studs.
Oh, nice. So it's not moving or shaking or nothing.
It shakes a little bit on the carpet, which is kind of unfortunate. But
cut the carpet out.
I thought about it. So I gotta be careful when I'm doing powder and stuff. You can see it bounce around if I walk around too much.
Interesting.
I just kind of basically park myself, turn the TV on, and then I don't have a problem with it whatsoever.
And we're on a second floor, so that's probably exacerbated a little bit, right? Because of the joists and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, if you look at this reloading setup, you're going to see obviously there's some high-end pieces, but it's a very simple setup. We've got the Primal Rights primer seater, we've got the Area 419 Zero Press, and then we've got a K&M Arbor, and we've got the Auto Trickler. So, really simple setup, but I can tell you guys it's as effective as heck because CJ comes out and just absolutely drills the paper. So when I look around, I see components. I'm seeing some jugs of H1000, N165, Varget, a lot of Burger bullets. Tell me kind of, when it comes to components, what is your non-negotiable? We're in harsh times right now. It's harder to find bullets, powder, primers, all that stuff. But what are you willing to make compromises on, and what things do you say, look, I'm just not going to shoot if I can't find it?
I say Burger bullets are probably number one for me. I think I've been able to find brass when I've needed to. Powder's obviously tough. I started with 4350, and that's kind of my main powder that I shoot. But it's running low, and I had a couple really good barrels actually with some loads that I actually set apart and wrote some notes on and say don't touch until I have to go to some decent match. So then I found some 165 and trying to get it shoot for the first time tonight will be the first time I've actually had a tested load to go out and try to see how it shoots.
And down here, I'm noticing there's a powder. If you look down here, you guys will see there's a keg of powder and a box of bullets, and then a keg of powder and a box of bullets. I'm assuming those are all outlined for each other.
Yeah. So they all match. They never go from a different lot. Typically, the H1000's for my 28 nozzler, and I got started fresh with a brand new box of bullets.
Yeah.
So in theory, I shouldn't shoot through that in a few years because I don't shoot my 28 nozzler a whole lot.
Okay.
And then these, I've gone through a couple boxes of the 187 millimeter hybrid targets.
Okay.
And then the one to the right is actually just my 6.5 Creedmoor PRS rifle. So they all kind of match.
Okay. So Burger bullets. If you can't find Burger, you're probably not going to shoot something else if you can help it.
Yeah, not in F class.
Yeah.
I don't think,
A little more forgiving in PRS?
Yeah, definitely. Targets are bigger. PRS is more about you, in my opinion. People can go out with one MOA guns and still compete. Even minute and a half guns can compete.
Yeah.
Obviously, the tighter your gun shoots, the more tolerance you have for not shooting as well. Yeah, so I could shoot 100 degrees in a PRS rifle, no problem.
And primers, obviously. I know you shoot CCI BR2s when possible, or 450s, or any of the CCI.
Yeah, I've always shot CCIs, never really shot anything else. So I go back and forth in the small rifle primers between 450s and BR4s, and then do the BR2s in my 284, just what I started with and what I stuck with.
But if you could find, if you needed them, you'd shoot Federals.
Yeah, I would shoot 210Ms. I mean, it's, hopefully I don't have to get to that point where I have to make a switch, but the BR2s are just what I'm used to.
Yeah, and I'm always, even when I first started, I was shocked because I thought, they're bench rest primers either way. There is definitely a difference to the ignition and how they shoot, and you got to kind of tweak your load a little bit. So, people are like, oh, I'll just switch over. Well, you got to make sure you make some changes and do a little testing because, even me, I just switched over because I ran out of one and had to get some others, and I went from CCIs to gold medals again, and there's definitely a little bit difference in the ignition there. So I don't think you can just switch it over and be ready to go. So the one question that I usually get the same answer for, but occasionally people surprise me: do you shoot to reload or do you reload to shoot?
I reload to shoot.
Yeah,
no question. I enjoy reloading. I actually love the testing process. It's not the reloading portion as much, but I really enjoy getting a new barrel. It's something that I really like doing. I get a new barrel, break it in, and then basically getting it shooting. The satisfaction of finding out really what it loves is actually what I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the shooting portion of it, but the tuning and testing is
it's sort of an unknown, right? It's like a first date. You don't know what you're going to get.
You have no idea. And, it could shoot phenomenal, or it could just be an absolute tank. And so it's that portion is fun to me.
Yeah, and if it keeps shooting bad, you just keep saying it's a new barrel. What is your favorite? You said you really like the testing part, but when it comes to reloading, what's your favorite part? Is there some part of it where you go, oh man, I really do enjoy whatever it is, like the feeling of seating a bullet or dropping powder or sizing, like it's really cathartic in that particular stage?
So I love the feeling of seeing a bullet, I guess, would probably be it. Knowing, having 20, 30, 40, all the bullets that you're loading and they all seat absolutely perfectly is one of my favorite portions. Ever since I got the Primal Right seating tool, that is really satisfying to run. With the slide and everything, it's quicker. And I found a good feel I like with all different primers for how they seat. I not really, but just kind of the whole thing, I guess.
And what is your least favorite reloading procedure?
I don't like having to expand my necks. That's kind of random, but for some reason, whenever I get to that process sits around longer than other processes. There's something about having to dip it in graphite and lube it and let it set and do the next one, and it just gets kind of messy and kind of just a pain. So that would probably be my least favorite.
And have you looked at switching to carbide so you don't have to use the graphite?
I have them downstairs. I just haven't polished them yet.
Okay. Because once you do that, at least you get rid of the graphite.
Mm-hmm. So no, I think I'll do that here shortly. But there's just a time period of that where I sit and let them dwell in there for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just that portion always sets longer than other stuff.
I don't totally disagree because for me, it's like I hate repetition, right? I hate doing something that doesn't necessarily have to be done, but you do it because it has to be done. Mm-hmm. And for me, I kind of get it. Like I never really thought about it that way, but you sit there and think, well, we size necks and it shrinks the neck down. It just seems silly to have to run it through again just to push it back out, and yet it does make a difference. Yeah. But that's interesting. I never would have thought that would be, but I totally get it.
I really have no idea why, but for some reason, when I get to that point in my process, they sit there on the bench for a little longer than everything.
Is it more like an aggravation or an anger?
It's just an aggravation. It's not an anger. I can turn the TV on and kill time, but it just like that, just sits there for long.
Well, I recently converted my Lee APP to an expander die, and. Because I'm sort of in the same boat, to run them through and stuff, it takes time. And so for me, I'm just like, I just rack them through now, and I'm like, good, that's done.
And I'd be lying if I haven't looked at those for depriming.
Man, I'm telling you,
because
$80.
That's the other process that's kind of a pain. I deprime downstairs in my garage.
Use a handheld?
No, I have a Force of coax that I had before that.
Oh, okay.
It was just sitting there doing nothing, so I just leave my depriming die in it and deprime down there. But how that thing grips it can't sit, and it's just kind of annoying. So
yeah. What's your favorite tool? Like I know you kind of have some newer tools, but Is there something in here that even if a newer version or another company came out, you're like, no, I really love this. I can't see myself ever replacing it.
Honestly, the priming tool. It's the newest tool I have in here, and it's saved me a lot of time. It's just easy, and I have a little gauge to check my primer depth, and it seems to get them most consistent.
Yeah.
I like how I can feel. I have a lot of feel with it.
It's crazy, right? I love that.
I like tools that have feel to it. It's, everything that just has a hard mechanical stop. With that hand press, you can never really feel how you're doing it.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about that primal rights tool.
Yeah, it's such a I don't know. I feel like priming is one of those really highly contested issues on forums and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You got the guys that, I use a hand one because then I can really feel when it's crushing, and then I just crush a little more. And then there's some people say, I don't worry about it. I just squeeze it and go. And it's really interesting for sure when it comes to priming. But yeah, I know what you mean about the feel on that. And, being able to have 100 primers in it and be able to run them. And I see you have the rubber band trick.
I do.
Yeah.
It's honestly just satisfying to use too.
Yeah.
Just the slide in comparison to having it just fall in and stuff. But yeah, and then it's nice because this helps for. That was one of your tools and tricks.
Oh, you picked up one of those.
That's the same. I don't know if it's the same company, but it comes from the Primal Rights guys.
Yeah, those are double alphas.
Because I couldn't find the Frankfurt Arsenal, or I couldn't find any of the other ones, and he had them, so I...
Yeah, same concept, but man, that makes it... I mean, it's the best money you'll spend to pick up 100 primers for sure. How about best tool or process that you've eliminated over time, where you go, man, that wasn't a process or it wasn't a tool that I needed to have. I'm glad it's gone and I don't miss it.
Glad it's gone and I don't miss it. I used to clean twice. I really don't like having to separate the media and dry and clean off the media and do all that. So eliminating one cleaning has been fantastic.
Because you wet tumble, right?
I wet tumble.
Yeah.
Yep. So instead of cleaning before I anneal and size, I just go straight to annealing and sizing after I deprime. And that saved me a bunch of time.
And we've actually got a couple of high-level shooters that do that, where, just in our group where, they will go ahead and decap and size and take care of that before they ever tumble with no ill effects. I mean, they anneal. You anneal before.
Yep.
You're right. So you decap, you anneal, and you size, then you tumble.
Yes.
Yeah. So if for those of you out there that think you have to throw it in the tumbler before you do anything else, that really is not the case. I did that process when I was wet tumbling. I was using that same process because I was the same way. It takes so much time. It's very effective to wet tumble, but it does take a lot of time, the drying, the separating, all of that. So I totally get that.
And I do it with my PRS stuff when I go to matches, because you're racking the bolt, you're running, it's literally landing in piles of dirt or mud, so you got to clean it. But with an F-class gun, it's all hand-fed and everything, so it never really gets that dirty.
Fancy brass.
Exactly.
Yeah. How about a process or a tool that you still kind of struggle with, but you can't get rid of it?
I wouldn't mind seating on my 419 press, to be honest with you. I've thought about it. I honestly can't really think of a good answer to that question. So, I can't really think of something to get rid of or improve right now.
You're pretty happy with the process overall?
Yeah, I haven't really done much tinkering in a while. I'm going back to turning necks. I went away from that, and then now I'm hopping back on that bandwagon after I had some weird stuff happen with my last couple batches.
Interesting.
And that's something, that was the evil I wanted to get rid of. I wanted to get rid of that thing super fast, and now I just think it's a necessary evil for me.
Okay. No, that's a good one. And what do you turn on? I don't see a turner in here.
Me and my grandpa share one of those PMA Tools turners.
Oh, okay. Chuck it up in a drill?
Yeah. Or actually, it has its own machine.
You have the bench mount one or whatever? Okay.
Exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, you don't see those very often, but I know they're really effective. What was your first big, we'll just talk F-class or PRS, I guess, because hunting, obviously, we see the achievements on the wall. But, when we talk about competitive shooting, what was kind of your first goal that you achieved?
First goal that I achieved probably would have been our first summer league.
Yeah.
Taking third in rec.
Nice.
Just kind of came out with that old Savage I started out with just to get into the sport and understand it. And that was probably my first achievement.
Yeah.
And then it just became a competition amongst friends with all of our group that we shoot with. And then I'm a pretty competitive person. I grew up in a competitive background, so I don't really like to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably was that first, because I didn't shoot really competitively before that. I'd go out and shoot for fun, but nothing competition-wise.
And what do you kind of, as you've obviously come a long way in the last 12 to 18 months, but what's kind of the next goal that you've set for yourself, either in PRS or in F class?
I don't have a specific goal, but I want to place well in a long range match. I've done a lot of mid range because that's what we shoot, and I've only ever shot in 2-day matches at long range, or even Palmas. So I would like to basically prove to myself I can compete with the best in those.
Yeah. I know you can. I have no doubt you can.
And it's just something I want to prove to myself. I mean, we shoot all the time 600, and 1,000's a completely different animal.
Yeah.
I'm like, going rattlesnake here to shoot, and I think that's probably my next thing that I just want to...
Yeah, and you're coming out this weekend, right? Yeah, and that's a huge match. So we're going to be out there at Rattlesnake, and that is a big, I want to say it's a regional or state match. So... there's going to be a few people missing because of another match that's going on in another part of the country, but it's still going to be a really highly contested thing. So I think that'll be a great opportunity for you, without a doubt. You've been around long enough that now people come to you because they obviously newer shooters see what you can do and stuff like that. What do you like sharing with new shooters when they come up to you and they're like, hey, what do you think of this? How do you like it? How do I get better? What do I do? What do I need? Like, what questions do you get, and what do you really enjoy talking to new shooters about?
I don't know. Kind of when I started, I think I got overly into the reloading process, making sure everything was perfect and over the top and all the details were perfect. I was actually watching an Eric Cortina video the other day, and he was talking to the guy who shoots ELR, and he talks about how much more important it is to go out and shoot than it is to actually spend time in the reloading room. I think that's something that in the beginning I was the guy that wanted everything to be perfectly tuned before I'd go out and try and shoot for score or practice or whatever. And then when I just started going out and shooting and working on my actual shooting process, is kind of when I felt I made my leaps and bounds.
That's cool. And what process do you think people overthink? Even if you're talking to people that shoot better than you or people that don't shoot as good as you, like when you look on the internet, whatever it is there something that you kind of laugh at and go, well, I get great results and I don't have to do that. I think they're overcomplicating it. Is there something that you kind of see that you think people tend to overcomplicate or make harder than it has to be?
I don't know. I think everybody's different, honestly. I think everybody has their own reloading process that gives them confidence in how they shoot.
Yeah.
And that's, in my mind, really what it is. I load around, and when I put that thing in my case to take it to a range, if I don't have confidence that it's going to shoot how I want it to, then I'm, SOL before I even show up.
Yeah.
So in terms of overcomplicating stuff, I don't know, obviously the sorting. There's a lot of sorting stuff that people do out there that I think doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah.
I don't sort anything, actually, now that I think about it.
No brass, no primers, no bullets.
No brass, no primers. I sorted a few bolts because I was thinking about pointing and never did it.
Yeah.
I haven't shot enough 1,000 yards to really get into that.
But to your point, if it gives somebody confidence, then
why not? No matter what it is, if they have the time to do it and want to do it, and it gives them the confidence, then I'm not going to tell somebody no.
Yeah,
it's. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I know CJ obviously because we've known each other a while now, but you guys don't really know CJ, but he is an incredible golfer. And, he talks about his competitiveness, but you're like, what, a 1 handicap?
Yeah, I played about a 0 these days. Not quite as good as I once was.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could literally almost go pro.
I played professionally for a few years.
Did you really?
Yeah, I played professionally for a few years, and then unsuccessfully.
Nike tour? Or?
No, I played on the Golden State tour down in California. Just a Nike tour I traveled around on, and then played some in Arizona.
Yeah.
So that is my competitive background. So I grew up playing a lot of golf.
Yeah, and we see that a lot, right? David ran triathlons, you did golf. It's a sport that really attracts people who have focus and drive. And I think I see that, both in PRS and F class. You see people, and we joke around, it's a lot of A-type personalities, and yeah, it's a lot of A-type personalities that tend to shoot in matches. But the reality is, it's people who tend to be very, very focused. very work ethic driven and very result oriented, right? And I'm sure a lot of what you did in golfing carries over to shooting, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of technical stuff in golf that people don't realize, especially with nowadays technology and TrackMan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of transferred over in terms of being what I enjoyed about golf and shooting. And then also I think that there's a slight advantage for me getting into it in just in terms of golf is kind of similar to shooting in a sense that you're going to shoot, wait, and then or just rapid fire, however you shoot. But there's always a pre-shot routine, which I worked on super hard at golf because everybody talks about a pre-shot routine. And then you listen to guys talk. I watch a lot of YouTube. I listen to guys talk about their pre-shot routines and how everything's the same every time.
Yeah.
So when I kind of came out and started shooting, I felt I had that pretty much down. And then I forgot about it for a while because I was too focused on my reloading, and then I had to kind of get back to the basics.
That's great. That's great. What do you think, like, the best advice? Is there something that you've heard over the last 12, 18 months, whatever, or even longer ago that, maybe with your grandpa or something like that hunting, is there some bit of advice that sort of sticks in your head when you shoot? I know some people say, I always remember my dad told me slow down and breathe, or, this person told me, whatever, something else that's kind of weird. Like, is there some bit of advice that's always stuck with you when you reload or shoot?
In terms of shooting, it's just kind of the stay calm aspect of it, I guess. People don't realize that when you're shooting, you're just shooting paper, that you get nerves and you kind of get going, and all of a sudden you start shooting a good score and you get kind of nervous. So to kind of slow down, take a deep breath and relax, something that I have to work on still, as I've gotten to a few pretty close good scores and ruined a few. Yeah, it's just kind of in confidence too. I think growing up, I played basketball. One of my dad's teammates, when he played in college, he always told me, he says, you got to shoot out of it. So no matter what kind of slump you're in or however much you're struggling, you can't get out of that slump if you don't continue to try and shoot your way out of it.
Oh, that's really good. I like that.
So, just to kind of give up or sit down or kind of be patient to wait for something to come back is not really a way to go about it. So like I hit this spurt a while ago where I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and I just shot my way out of it. I just continued to shoot as much as I possibly could to try and...
Because it has to go one of two ways, right?
Yeah, it's going to continue on this crap streak, or you're going to get better.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's really good. I always admire, I never did any competitive sports really until I got into shooting and played a little high school. But, for me, I see guys like you and David and some of the other guys who are, have a really strong training background and things like that. And it's always something that I really look up to, because... even though you've just started, you're still one of those people that I look up to, because I look and I go, man, here he just started, and most people when they start, they kind of, there's a name for this, curve, and I forget what it is, but there's a very quick rise to success, and then you drop until you get better, and then you come back up, right? Mm-hmm. And there are people who have that natural ability to get rid of that lower curve, or at least diminish it a little bit, and I think you're one of those people. So even I sit there and go, okay, great, what is he doing? How is he wrapping his brain around this? Because I know that you're successful in that part. So, when it comes to helping, I think we all kind of see things in each other that we can grow from. So,
and that's my biggest leaps and bounds is from the group, honestly.
Yeah.
Just kind of the people that we hang out with, on the weekly or, basis. And, I've learned a lot from everybody. Yeah. You, Brian, David, everybody.
Yeah. It can be intimidating, but...
Yeah. I call my grandpa every week. If I'm struggling, I shoot a bad score, I call him literally every Tuesday after I shoot and say, he asks me, how'd you shoot? And I tell him, I shot terrible, or I shot great, or I almost, shot a perfect score and screwed it up, or whatever it was.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, he's referenced this a couple times, but... A couple weeks ago, CJ's out there, and it was just one of these nights where, you knew you could shoot a great score. He went 19 X's at 600 yards, and then the 20th shot went 10, huh? Mm-hmm. And just by
It was like an eighth of an inch, quarter of an inch.
It was
high.
brutal.
Yeah.
Because we've only had, I think, 3 or 4 guys. I've never done it. We've only had 3 or 4 guys ever shoot a perfect 220X, and I think only 2 guys have ever done it without convertible sighters.
Yeah.
So, to shoot a 19X, man,
And I've set that as one of my goals is 20x.
20x, yeah.
It's one of those goals that I can kind of work at every week too, because long range matches aren't all the time.
Right.
So to kind of have a goal that I can work at weekly when we go out and shoot that's kind of been it. But with that, all the dots have to line up.
Yeah.
To work. It's got to be a good night. You got to have a good shooting gun, and then you have to shoot well. So
and a little bit of luck, right?
And a little bit of luck. Just a little bit.
Oh, that's we've all been there. So wrapping it kind of up, I always ask people what question, when it comes to reloading, whether it's what's the perfect neck tension, how much room can I have in my powder disparity, there's all these things that we sort of wrap our brain around when it comes to reloading. And if you could pull an answer out of a hat that was 100% definitive, what do you think that, what question would you want to ask when it comes to shooting or reloading that you would want a perfect answer on?
I think the one I'd probably go with is I think we all kind of know how to tune guns pretty well to get them shooting. But then I think the challenge for me is keeping it shooting through the life of the barrel. So I'd like to know what that one factor is that I need to, or two factors to kind of adjust and tinker with throughout the life of a gun to keep it going. Because I had a couple guns that have come out of the box and just been like that gun I shot the other night, shot 219 with was, it was virgin brass, guest load, all kinds of stuff.
It was like the first 20 rounds.
Yeah, it was
right?
like rounds like 19 through 39 or whatever it was.
And it just hammered.
And it just absolutely hammered. So, and then I tested it and it kept shooting and it shot even better actually. But, I haven't shot it out at Tri-County yet. But then I've had some other guns that started out like that, and then they just kind of go like this downhill steadily.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're flat and then they drop off. It's just kind of this downhill.
If you had a magic roadmap for the life of the barrel,
so I'd like to know what I can tinker with or tune throughout the life of a barrel. What's the most necessary thing to keep it super, super tight?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a tough one because, sometimes, especially now, it brings up a really good point because there's things that are under your control, like cleaning, right? So, okay, you play with different cleaning regimens and you find what works, and okay, that seems to keep my barrel working. Mm-hmm. But when you think about the component shortage and what it really does, it really makes life tough, right? Because even if you can find a jug of this here and a jug of that there, it's often different lot numbers. Mm-hmm. You've got different lot numbers on primers. You've got, all of these things that add up to little differences. And you just don't know exactly how they're going to affect it. So you might get 2 8-pounds of 4350 and one shoots 30 feet per second faster. Well, great. Now I got to retune that barrel and find out what's going to make it work. And it definitely has presented some challenges over these last year and a half.
And I've completely wiped my whole cleaning process. I completely wiped it. Started completely from scratch from what I had been doing with my first couple barrels because I've only gone through 2 barrels and. Since I started F-Class. And I haven't even gone through them. They haven't gone out on me. I just had to get new ones, just ordered them.
And so, the question that I'm starting to ask now, only because it seems like it's been such a hot button lately, there's sort of two schools of thought when it comes to cleaning a gun. There's clean it when it needs it, and there's clean it every time. Where do you find yourself on that one?
I started with cleaning it when it needs it. And then that's when I think I could never keep a gun in tuned. And then now my last 2 barrels or my next 2 barrels that I'm working on right now, I've gone to just clean it. Just clean it after you shoot it, find a regimen that works, and then figure out when. I'm just tinkering with that. How many rounds? I've gone to using paste. I've been using IOSO, really cleaning my gun rather than just using patches, brush.
Still kind of a newer process for you.
Yeah, and I'm still tinkering with it. I mean, I don't think I'll ever set anything in stone on that, to be honest with you. I'll always be changing it. But, I've gone to definitely, cleaning before it needs it. Because when you get to that point, you're done, right? So we're out here trying to split hairs. And you get to a point when your gun's not shooting anymore. You're too far gone already. Yeah. That's my opinion on it, at least.
Yeah. And I've fallen into that, too. It's a slippery slope.
It's just being proactive instead of reactive, right?
Right.
I mean, you're trying to avoid that point in time when the thing goes to crap on you,
right?
Versus
why wait to shoot?
Why wait until it goes to crap on you?
Yeah. Why wait till a 9 or an 8?
And it doesn't take long. I go and I shoot and I come home and I clean. It takes 15, 20 minutes to clean if you shoot every 30, 40, 50 rounds.
Very cool. Well, I think we're going to get wrapped up here. Again, I love showing off all of these different reloading rooms because it just highlights how everybody comes up with a process that works for them. You can see it's not fancy. These are just some, IKEA type little cubes that he's got over his bench, which I think are a great idea. A lot more effective than putting up shelving and, can move them around. we've got ammo out of the way here and ammo boxes and brass ready to go. And it just shows you that there is no one way to set up a reloading room. So find stuff that works for you. Find the tools. Make it work. This bench, I'm assuming, I forgot to mention, but the bench is definitely taller than I would normally want. And I'm assuming that's because you're, 6'5"?
Yeah, I'm 6'6". So
6'6"?
I don't like, my back gets really tiring, so
punching over
and stuff. So all my benches I've had in the past were too short. And I sit when I do powder, but when I run my press and size and everything, I stand up for sure.
Yeah, because that's probably, I know my bench runs about 35 inches. This is probably closer to 42, 45.
42.
Yeah. So it definitely makes a difference. Mm-hmm. So, well, there you go again. So, CJ, thanks so much for letting us into your reloading room. This is never easy for people. People tend to be a little shy and guarded. And, people have been kind enough to open up their rooms to us. And thanks again. So, everybody out there, hope it's all going well. We'll talk soon. Have a good one.